This is the Divorce is Not an Option podcast. Divorce is not an option. I got to be able to say divorce, right? Did you hear that?
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Please be sure to subscribe and follow our podcast so you can be automatically alerted when we produce a new episode on iTunes, Spreaker.com, Google Play, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Tell a friend and repost and retweet this podcast for us. Thanks.
So today we're talking about an article on StephenJamesDixon.com called Submission versus Independence. What do men really want?
This is going to be interesting.
Tamra, when you hear a man say submission in the context of husband and wife, what comes to mind? Like just go on a riff, like just go on, take about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes and just speak on submission.
So it really depends. For me as a woman, I was raised in a very conservative Baptist home. So I don't think I have the same angst against the whole term submission that some people do. But I do think that some men can abuse the term and think that it means, they're going to get a Stepford wife or a doormat. And that is not what that means.
Is the Stepford Wife thing, is that just based on the movie, or was there a book, or was there...
That's a good question.
Because I know the movie, but I didn't know if it always came from that, or was it something else?
I don't know.
That's one of them things.
Yeah,
that's one of them things you're gonna look up, aren't you? Like,
yes, I am. This is what Google for. This is what I live for. It is a book by Ira Levin.
How you look it up that fast?
Man. I'll be the first one to say Google it.
But I think I'd like to know the story behind that, because we've always just kind of used that term and it became a popular term, and the movie was pretty popular. Maybe the book was popular. Like,
it was actually a couple of movies. Like, we probably saw was it Nicole Kidman version? But
I saw that one. Yes,
that was a remake.
And I wonder if it was written from. Is it a real, fiction or nonfiction, or is it a story, or is it made up? Like, what is it based on? Something? I wonder what that is.
I don't know, but according to Google, it was written in 1972, and it's actually a modern horror story. So that was the original basis.
I keep asking questions to make you be more curious, because then I trick you into going and do a bunch of research because you get rid of.
I like to Google, so yeah.
I know you like to Google and find out. Podcast listeners out there, Tamara's just not going to sit around like most people with a curious spirit and something on her mind.
I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. And I want to know the truth.
Right. Whereas I'm like the rest of y'all and us. I just sit around every day thinking, like, I wonder. And I never Google.
The thing that annoys me the most, okay, sorry, totally off topic, but when you're on Facebook and somebody posts something like, somebody murdered a cat and, just like is a serial cat murderer, and I'm like, nobody actually takes the time to look it up and say, who's going around shooting cats, really? And I mean, it's stuff like that. Like, somebody just posted something today about a little black boy who was shot by a police officer who was the grand wizard of the KKK. And I was like, okay, this can't be real. So let me look it up. And it was completely untrue. And the fact of the matter was, the little black boy had actually stolen a car and was in a police chase and pointed the gun at the police. And I'm like, we have enough trouble convincing people that there really is police brutality that is completely unwarranted. Let's not fake stories.
The person who posted the story, was it African American or?
Of course.
Huh.
So they're posting a story yeah, exactly. They're posting a story and they're like, this is horrible. And I'm like, that story is not real. And then when you look up the real story, you're like, okay, that child put himself in a really bad position.
So your Facebook entertainment time be doubling because you got to go and fact find the stories that people post on Facebook.
I hope my husband can hear this.
That's really what be going on.
Facebook entirely too much. But that is really, yes, because I'm like, is this real? So I look up everything. Yes, that's a problem.
double time Facebook. So you like,
Exactly.
and so you can't break it up. To you, it's still considered Facebook because you're researching a story from Facebook, and then you got to go back. Then you got to go back and post your response on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, because I can't let people be misinformed. That's just wrong.
What is it? What is it about Facebook that got y'all women so captivated?
I don't know.
My
It's
wife
one
too.
okay.
I throw my wife in there.
Well, we're very social, and that's, even though I'm an introvert, and actually that's probably what makes it even easier. I'm naturally introverted. So Facebook is an easy way for me to contact people without actually having to contact people.
And you can turn them off if you don't want to be friends with them.
Exactly.
No foolishness, but you still like the foolishness though.
I don't. Well, so it depends on what the foolishness is. If it's political foolishness, yes, I will be all in it.
A guy
If
told
it's like
me
Cardi B type foolishness, no, I'm not trying to hear that.
I had a coaching session with a guy the other day, and he said, "Man, I just need a little bit of ratchet in my life."
Yeah, no, I'm not like that.
And he was being real, like it was real, like
I'm
he
sure
was
a lot
like,
of dudes feel that way.
right. I'm feeling him. I'm like, I'm feeling you. You know what I'm saying? I said at least once or twice. I said, but I try to include my wife in the ratchetness. I try to make me and my wife go at least once a year, if not twice a year, to just a grimy spot and just dance and go hard like we college
That's
kids.
different. That's
You
different.
know,
But I'm saying
it's
I
still
try to
because
limit my ratchet to like Issa Rae, Insecure.
wow, you just showed yourself. Like a lot of people like that's not even ratchet. Like that's just scratching the surface. Like
No, it's some ratchet that goes on there.
is it still going on or is the show over?
Uh, I think it's over. I think yeah, the season's over.
I thought it was. I keep
Yeah,
seeing them.
it is.
My wife had to get me caught up. Okay, so again, we're talking about submission versus independence. What do men really want?
Mhm.
The first thing I think about when I think about submission versus independence, I think about my mom when she was married. She went on a cruise one time,
Mhm.
and I said, "Mom, why is your husband not going on a cruise with you?" And my mom said, "Because he don't have no money."
Legitimate excuse. He can't afford the trip.
She just was like, he don't have no money.
Real
I got money
talk.
for a cruise. I'm out.
Real talk.
And notice, yeah, her ex-husband, because that didn't work out. And that's what I knew on that day. Like that, I was like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work. They're not gonna make him. And they got a divorce about a year after that.
So let me ask you this. I know this is a question that you have for me, but you've been married what, 11 years?
12 years next month.
12 years. Okay. So did you have a different idea of what submission meant before you got married than you do now?
How you gonna just flip it? Podcast. Hold on. Let me tell the podcast listeners how Tamara and I every week get together and write a script out. And so in the script, I asked her that question, and she just presented the question to me like it say my name by the. No. How you? So
I'm
okay, so
keeping
you
you
gonna
on
go
your
after me.
toes.
You gonna go after me. Okay, you gonna go after me.
Yeah.
I I don't think so. I don't think before I was married, I really wasn't concerned about submission and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't that dude, you know. After I got married, I still didn't, really focus in on it because I wasn't really that good at being married initially, right? So I wasn't focused on the finer points and details of being married, like submission, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it wasn't until I was like, okay, I'm going to be a good husband. And yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. And that's a whole nother. Yes, I did say that after I got married, one day I decided that I was going to be a good husband. Yes, I did say
Uh-huh.
all that. Yes,
Uh-huh.
I know. Should have did it before. Blah blah. Yeah, got all that right. But it wasn't until then that I decided that okay, I'm going to be a good husband. Um, and not that I came into the marriage thinking I was going to be a bad husband or had any intention, but when I said to myself, I'm going to be a good husband, it was really about me being intentional. Like I'm really going to do the work. I'm really going to sacrifice. I'm really looking to compromise. I'm changing my approach. I'm not making no more excuses. I'm not blaming her. I'm going to look at me first, see what I can do differently, what I can do better before I complain about her. Like that's what I mean when I said, okay, and I guess part of the reason is because I didn't really know what a husband was
That's what
when
I
I
was about
became a
to
husband.
say. You don't really have a practical idea of what marriage requires until you're actually in it.
Right. yes. Like we like that was a lot. You said a lot. Because and it really was like your boyfriend and girlfriend, your fiance and all that, and engaged, and then you get married and you have to wait for it to kick in, really, to be like, oh, I really can't just leave, huh? Oh, you know what? Oh, I really do have to work it out with you because you here every day.
Exactly. And I
You
have
really
to continue every day doing whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing. I can't just take a break.
right. There's no breaks, and I can't kill you or nothing like
Like
that.
you said in the podcast last week, like I can't just say I'm going to be a leader on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right. Every single day, I'm a husband. Every single day, she's a wife.
Mhm,
Every single day, we got this marriage and this house and this family and these kids
mhm,
every single day. And so once I decided that, and I really try to focus on myself and exemplifying a leadership skill set, that's when I was like, okay, is my wife following me?
mhm.
And luckily I never really had a submission. Well, I did. You know what? We'll get to that a little later.
Okay.
My
Well,
submission
let
story
me
on that.
continue. Okay. Well, let me continue in asking you my questions. So the next question is, what do you think the average man thinks about submission?
Now, the average man, and see, that's different because there's different men, right? And
Mhm,
so when I'm dealing with men that are Christian men
mhm,
that are, above 30, let's say,
mhm.
they're very, very focused on submission. Very, very focused. And
Of
it's, and
course.
it, right. And it's taught, it's like someone taught them incorrectly. Like someone just told them that the woman is just going to shut up and be quiet and you get to tell her what to do.
Good luck with that.
Right. And it just, and really it's sad because they really believe that. Like that's it's kind of like, oh, man, we can go so many places, but it's kind of like with white folk, you know what I mean? They just believe that there's no racism. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of Christian men that just believe that a woman should just do whatever they say. Like they just get to decide on all things. And
Mhm,
that's not the case.
mhm.
You, what about you? How you what do women say to you when y'all talk about submission?
So, what's interesting is this is not something that I hear about as much as I used to. And so I think submission has just become an unpopular topic. In reality, some people would probably say it was an outdated concept. Um, but I grew up with a certain idea of what a wife was supposed to be and how to, be submissive to my husband. And I had a great example of a submissive wife, still have a great example of a submissive wife in my mother. And so, um, that has been a huge blessing to me. Being married and actually having to put into practice that concept is way harder than I thought it would be because I, one, got married older, and two, am so independent. I mean, my dad flat out said, my dad looked at me and said, I don't know if your mama and I would still be married if we got married with her having all of what you have and with her having done all that you have done. And
What do you mean?
so just being as independent as I've been, getting myself to the financial place that I've gotten myself, having the adventures that I'd have, living in Spain and Costa Rica and just, being a world traveler. And there's something to be said for getting married early and growing together and building each other together.
Mhm.
And so I think he was saying, your mama might have been one of those, I don't need a man people if she had, all the adventures and financial stability that you have when we first got married.
That's interesting because that's one of the first examples I give when I talk about independence in the article.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's the lead into you talking about the first independence example.
Oh, okay. Obviously, I'm not following the script.
That's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get. You trying to
So,
flip all the questions and all that, catch you all off guard.
whatever. So the article has two examples of submission and two examples of independence. Okay, starting with the first example, the wife, this is an example of independence. And the wife wants a new car. She buys a new car and she buys a new car without consulting her husband first. And her thought process is, I got the money. I can afford the car. I don't need his money. I don't need his permission.
Have you
Interesting.
ever seen something like that before?
Um, the best example was your mama going on a cruise.
Yeah, you're right. I got another one. I was working with a couple, and the wife and the husband talked about buying this new tree, some expensive tree that they wanted to put in the backyard, and and he went on to work and travel. Came back the next week. She had bought the $2,500 tree and put it in the middle of the backyard.
Oh, wow.
And he was just like, and she had the money. It was her $2,500, but he was just incensed. Like he was so angry and hurt and didn't understand why she couldn't have a conversation about it or why she did it, without him. And he really needed to be needed.
So,
You
what
know,
was her response? What was her reasoning for that?
her response was basically, I bought a tree. You know what I mean? Regardless if
But
it's
she,
$25 or $20, she just did not get it. Like she accepted him being hurt, and she accepted me saying, hey, you guys should just talk about these types of things, but she just did not get it. She had totally missed it.
yeah, and I can kind of see that perception. Like it's a tree, it's not that big of a deal.
Hmm.
Um,
And she had talked to him about it, so she was like, we talked about it. He said
exactly.
also he wanted a tree. But to pull a trigger and actually do it and have a man come to the house and plan it and do all that, she was hot. He was hot.
I think that is something that is hard for women to recognize. One, you have hired, somebody to do something, some manual labor at your house without your husband's permission. That's kind of like in his territory. And I know for me, like being single, like I've always called a handyman, to come fix something or a plumber or whatever. And so it's a transition um, to say, okay, I need to check for these things. And so I can understand where she thought it was not a big deal and he did. And that's something that they need to communicate on.
What I advise people on is you have to have a certain amount of money that you agree
Exactly.
that anything over that amount you discuss as a family. So you should do that in advance. Like for us, it's like $250 or something like that. If you want to spend more than $250 out of the shared account, then we need to know about it. Whatever she do out her personal stash, I don't know what she do. I don't have no input on that.
But
Whatever. I guess if she wanted to buy a $2,500 tree out of her personal account, then I probably wouldn't say nothing because that's her money.
that's what
But
I'm saying.
right,
So,
right,
and I think if it was $150 tree, he still probably would have been hurt. So it's more about that was their home, their territory, and just communicating, and making sure that everybody's on the same page. Because she probably thought he wanted a tree, I got a tree.
right. And also too, it goes to how this wasn't the only example or issue for them. Like just
Yep.
when I see this kind of issue, it's always just like an underlying issue at all times about communication or about independence or about not wanting to be submissive
Yep.
or the man lacking the leadership for the woman to follow him. And
Yep.
so example number two.
So, well, I mean, I want to kind of get into that a little bit more because you were talking about leadership, and that is a good point because a lot of times as women, we don't think about it. We just move them with it. And had he been more clear, it might have been a little bit, easier to avoid that issue.
Right. And I think too, just when you're talking about leadership with men, like a lot of times men want women to submit before they have led. And so, and what I mean by that is you got to lead by example. You exhibit leadership first and then the woman will follow. Now, there's some women that just not good at following because like you said, and she was like that too. She was a professor, well established, had tenure at a university, all that kind of stuff. And she had been single for a while. She had gotten married early and got a divorce, was single with raising her two kids for like 10, 15 years, then got remarried. And now, she used to just buying stuff whenever she wanted to buy it. And so a lot of times I have to work with couples about, okay, come back now to being in a relationship and having a partner have an opinion and 50% opinion on what was going to happen around the house and with the marriage and with the family. Like that is really, really tough for people. So I'm glad that you were taught that, because everyone who gets married at a later age to some extent have some kind of struggles with this unless they're taught submission.
Okay, cool. So example two, Eve is the breadwinner. So you have me saying, ladies, repeat after me. What is necessary for Eve to trust Adam? Even, wait, that don't even make sense. Anyway, okay. The fact that Eve makes more money than Adam has nothing to do with the marriage or the structure of the marriage. As we said earlier, leadership is not based on money or on being a man, which I want to come back to. Um, you're saying this is not a state. This is not to state that a woman cannot lead. It's to state that a woman cannot lead a man, not a real man anyway. So I want to come back to that because you said leadership is not based on money or being a man, but if you're saying the man is the head of the household, how does that reconcile with that statement?
When I say being a man, I'm saying not merely a man. Like the woman submits to God inside of the man.
Okay.
Have you ever heard it taught like that? Like if you're not a man of God, then a woman not supposed to submit to you.
Okay.
You're submitting to him, and you only submit to a man of God because he first submits to God. You see, none of this works if we're not all in submission.
Okay. So your point is it's not about you being a male, it's about you being a leader.
Right. It's not about you being a man or a male or a leader. Number one. Number one is about, are you submitting to God?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you're submitting to God, then your decision-making process is about, how do I love my woman like God loved the church? And so if your man submits to God, then he knows how to love the woman the way God loved the church. So you should feel safe in submitting yourself to him.
Okay. Okay.
Make sense?
Yes. So, but the point of the matter is, like, you have this example as Eve being the breadwinner. Um,
Mhm.
but that's a very real issue in this day and age. And
Yep.
it wasn't really like you don't really dig into it right here. Like, how do you handle that? Because I think it's a struggle for women as to how do I submit to my husband when I'm paying the bills. And then for men, how do I not feel like less of a man if she paying the bills?
Good questions. And this is why marriage is something that has to be taught, and it's not something that you just feel your way through.
Right.
Marriage is definitely on the job training, but at the same time, you got to learn some stuff, man. And so for a woman, what woman would learn in that scenario is that money does not necessarily mean anything in terms of making decisions in a marriage. Just because you're smart and you know how to go to law school or medical school, or you know how to just flip money or whatever, that doesn't mean you're the best decision maker for the marriage, right? It means that, you can go, it's kind of like college. Like, just because you go to college doesn't mean you're smarter than somebody that didn't go to college. It just means that you were able to sit down and learn and focus, and regurgitate some words to somebody or whatever and take a test. So because you make money, that has no impact on emotions. Because you make money, that doesn't mean you're good at a relationship. For example, Tiger Woods, right? All the athletes and celebrities and all those people who have bad relationships because they have money, and money is the root of all evil, right?
The
And so
love of
money
money.
cannot, the love of money, okay, is the root of all evil. And so money does not mean, money should play no role in how you have how you structure your marriage in terms of decision making. What happens in marriage, now switching to talk to my brothers out there, what happens in marriage is that you have to make the best decision for the marriage, regardless of money, right? And so a huge problem that the women have is they say they automatically assume that they're the better decision maker. The huge problem the men have is they automatically say, well, I'm the man, so I get to make the decision. And so, just because they're the man, they get to make it. And so, but when the man, and what I do and what I teach and what is biblical is for me to make all my decisions first based on my wife and my family. So on every decision I make, I first think to myself, what would my wife like for me to do? And so then later we'll have some other examples too about submission to actually walk through different scenarios that we talk about.
Okay, cool. So let's start with submission example number one. The kitchen has been left dirty the last couple of nights. Adam walks into the house and says, "Look here, Eve, from now on, I will take care of the kitchen Mondays and Wednesdays, and I would like for you to take care of the kitchens on Tuesdays and Thursdays." You left part of that example out.
What did I leave out?
So Eve says, "Dude, I volunteer on Tuesday nights." And
Oh, you
Adam
wanted the whole,
says,
okay.
yes, Adam says, "Okay, you take care of the kitchen Monday and Wednesday, and I'll take care of the kitchen Tuesday and Thursday." Like, I really appreciated the compromise in that scenario.
Right. And the initial part of it was saying that when Adam walks in the house and says, "Hey, I'm gonna wash dishes Monday and Wednesday. I'd like for you to do them Tuesday and Thursday," a lot of women couldn't accept it from that point. You know what I mean? Like, why are you telling me what days to wash dishes? You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of what I try to teach is Adam being fair and reasonable. You know, it's not like Adam said, "I'm gonna wash dishes on Mondays. You got the rest of the week." That
Yeah.
would be, using your power of submission unfairly. You know what I mean? And so what I'd like to teach women is when Adam comes in and he's exhibiting leadership, is he thinking of me? And so I'm saying Adam is thinking of you when he says, "I got Monday, Wednesday, you got Tuesday, Thursday." You see what I'm saying? He's being fair and he's being reasonable. And then in the second part of the story, like you presented, um, a wife may say, "Hey, I can't do Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, I got Delta Step Show practice, and Thursday, I got choir practice. Can I switch with you and do Monday and Wednesday?" And a man can still, even though he's a leader, so the second part was really focused on the men, and saying that even when you're a leader, that doesn't mean that what the directions or the plan that you set forth is perfect, and you have to be willing and able and open to negotiating that plan. So I come in, I say Monday, Wednesday, and you do Tuesday, Thursday. You say I can't do Tuesday and Thursday. I need to then be able to say, "Oh, okay, I understand, and I can do Tuesday and Thursday if you do Monday and Wednesday." And a big part of that is man coming and making out a plan in advance. That means Adam set aside some time before approaching Eve and came up with a plan that is reasonable and fair, easy to digest, easy to say, "Okay, this is fair." Easy to say Adam has thought about me and thought about him and thought about the marriage, and he's not just coming here trying to be a king or a ruler and just tell me what to do and all that. So in those
That's the
scenarios,
challenge.
I would like for my women, right? That's the challenge. In those scenarios, I like for my women to be able to look at the situation and say, "Is my husband being fair?" And if he is, then to follow his leadership.
Okay, cool. So example number two says, "Baby girl comes home from college with an engagement ring on. Baby girl asks mama to ask dad for $20,000 for the wedding. Mama evaluates the finances and decides that $20,000 is doable and proceeds to gain the approval of dad. Mom makes the request to dad. Dad thinks the $20,000 is too much and wants to give $10,000. They are at an impasse. After a week of deliberation, dad decides to give baby girl $15,000 for the wedding. How should mom handle dad's decision?"
Again, another scenario where I want my men to be able to exhibit leadership. But you see in the leadership example, mom wants 20, daughter wants 20, dad wants to give 10, dad decides to give what is in the middle, which is 15. Now, I don't believe dad can just decide, 12 if he can't justify 12. Like, you got to lay out a plan. And some men really have a problem with this. Some men really have a problem with explaining in my leadership why I made this decision. I don't understand. I still don't get that. Like, I know it's the male ego and things like that,
And because
but
I
I
say it's
want buy-in, and because I said so, but I want buy-in from the people that are following me. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a coach of a football team, you tell the players why we're going to attack, the cornerback first, and then we're going to attack the linebacker, then we're going to run left instead of right. And, you tell them this is why. You're not just going to say we're going to go out there and win. You're going to say this is our plan for the week, for the next game. So when I'm making a decision for the family that I believe I'm being fair and impartial on, if you can be impartial for the most part, I try to explain to my wife, this is my thought process, that I'm saying that we can do $15,000 because I need the extra five because I want to rebuild our backyard or something, or I want to save that five for us to go on a family vacation, or I want to save that five because we got some plumbing work that's going to happen in the house in the next couple months, or the water heater is about to go out or something like that. So we're not in a position to give all that. And the woman may not know about all that. Because a lot of things I'm trying to fix around the house, my wife has no idea what's going on.
Well, that's also how you build loyalty and respect. So, like when you are actually letting everybody know exactly why you're making the decisions that you're making, you kind of just engender that loyalty.
And the key is for the podcast listeners again, yes, we're having men make decisions, and as women get mad right now saying, no, a man don't need to make no decision for me. Right. And but when I teach submission and independence and all this together, and when I challenge my men to be leaders and lead in this way, it's not just this. This is not it. Like this is a piece of submission and piece of leadership and a woman's ability to be able to follow. Because when I put this on the man, I'm also putting on his ability to apologize first, right? I'm putting on the man. He should be willing to sacrifice first, compromise first. I put on the man that, okay, I'll be, willing to, just figure out a way to make sure that you have buy-in from your plans, from what your
Yes.
leadership. And so it's not just, man, you get to say what to do. All of this comes together, like in what we talked about last week, stupid questions that men ask women. I ask men to lead. And so if I'm gonna ask you to lead, and like you said earlier, you got to lead in every way,
That's
every
real
day.
talk. So the submission follows the leadership.
The submission follows the leadership. And then a couple other things about submission is, and how we talked about, and how I wrote in the article, go back to the article on StephenJamesDixon.com, is I'm always surprised when women initially shoot down a submission, because the way I talk to submission is a woman making the decision to choose to submit to a man. It is not a man telling a woman, you must submit to me. In fact, I teach men all the time that if you got to ask a woman to submit to you, then you're not doing something right, because you should be in your leadership that she witnesses, and she, you example, this is why you should follow my leadership. And I talk about in the article just how, like, a man should be, if you're going to lead a woman, you need to be prepared to make her life better than what it was. You can't lead her backwards. You know what I'm saying? You got to improve her life. She's got to know that you're going to improve her life, so then she will follow you. So I'm always explaining to men that submission is something that a woman has to want to do. It has to be deep. And women, oh, get on my women again for real quick. And women, you have the power to choose. It's not like I'm just telling you submit to whatever random dude, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think women miss that part. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whenever I remember one time I was in New York, I was in Harlem at the Harlem Library or something like that, and I was speaking at an event, and it was like 100 women, 100 sisters in there, and I started out with, all of y'all want to submit to a man, and they went crazy,
Well,
right?
because it's based
And
on experience. Like most of the men that they know are probably not worth submitting to.
exactly, and so that's why you're not with them men. But the one that you're going to choose to be with, that you get to select, that you get to say I do with, you choose him. And so really this is a litmus test for women, because if you cannot submit to that man, then that man is not the right man for you.
That's real talk. All right, so we have a couple.
And women just,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go where you
We
want
had
to
a
go.
couple questions from readers. Um,
Oh, I forgot about
yeah, so
those.
we have one from Michelle Phillips in Houston, and she says, as a single mother, money management is my strength. I make it a point to budget and to stick to my budget and invest and save and live below my means. Um, what if I'm better suited than my future husband to oversee the household finances? Why should he lead when I'm stronger in this area?
I think we had a good example of leadership. This is funny. Give me a little bit of room here. A good example of leadership in our current president, in that he knows nothing, so he has to have good people around him that know stuff.
Yeah,
And so that in order to be a leader of anything, anywhere, you got to know what things you're not good at, or you got to know what other people are better at. So there's head coaches throughout the NFL who don't touch nothing on the offense. They let the offensive coordinator run that because they know offense. And they might not touch defense because the defensive coordinator is the best for defense. He's able to focus all of his attention on defense all week long. Being a good leader does not mean you make all the decisions. Being a good leader is knowing what you're not good at, and knowing where you need help, and recognizing somebody else's skills and talents.
yeah, the president don't know that.
Okay, yeah, I gotta take it back. I use it as an example, but he really does. I don't know. he's so difficult to understand
Oh my
because
gosh.
we all know that he don't know nothing about healthcare. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my gosh.
We assume he knows a little bit about business, but he don't really know how the stock market work and Wall Street and all that. We assume he knows something about real estate, but he's had a gang of bankruptcies. You know what I'm saying? He don't know about domestic, about
He
foreign,
knows how to work the
relationships,
system.
and he just talking about right. And so, I do believe that he does know how to hire quality people. It's just a matter of those quality people, their policy and what they want implemented is different from what I want implemented.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Um,
You can't even touch
no, no,
it.
that's a whole nother episode. So Susan Thomas from Dallas says, I manage people all day and I excel at it. Why can't I manage my marriage? She says she's good at it. Um, how am I supposed to come home from a day of telling people what to do and how to do it and then be told what to do? Mm.
Susan is real strong. First of all, I don't want submission to be perceived as someone telling you something to do. Submission should be perceived as I am entrusting my husband to lead our marriage. It's not, and I'm entrusting our husband to lead our marriage with my desires in mind, in heart, in his spirit. So he's leading with me in mind. An example earlier, we talked about money. The husband is saying, hey, we're going to give 15,000 more. You're going to give 5,000 more than what I want to give just because you want to give it. I'm going to give 5,000 less than what I want, than what you want to give just because I want to give it. Like I'm meeting you in the middle,
So
right? And so as long as the man is meeting the middle,
I think you just hit on a big topic that is very difficult and probably a whole nother episode, and that's trust.
yes.
Because you're asking someone to completely trust everything to a whole nother person when they've been in control of everything on their own for however long. And I actually just thought about it. I had a conversation with somebody who was talking about getting married and getting a prenup. And somebody else said, if you don't trust that you're gonna be with this person forever, and you feel like you need a prenup, then you don't need to get married.
See, I don't necessarily agree with that. And I've had these conversations with couples about prenups and things of that nature. The fact of the matter is some people are better at money than they are at love.
Yeah,
Oh no, I want to pause that so everybody just take that into your spirit. Some people are better at money than they are at love. Matter of fact, love is the most difficult thing that you have to be good at, right? Because it's the one thing that you really have to compromise on. For money, you could just go get that. Anybody can go get money, wherever. For love, it takes at least two people, right? And I guess you can love yourself, So and so and so the fact of the matter is that sometimes because of love and love makes us blind, we marry someone who's not financially as savvy or financially as mature, and then you lose that money. And also the other reason why I would prefer a prenup than not a prenup, because what happens in marriage is a lot of times if a person who gets married and they have something to lose, then they start focusing more on what they have to lose and how to not lose it instead of being able to relax in the marriage and say, okay, I can try to work on the marriage because I'm not going to lose anything. I'm not going to lose money, so I can now. It's kind of, I don't know
but
if I can even
I
explain
hear
that in
what you're
my.
saying, but I think that one again goes back to the trust issue. You need to figure out where it is that you have a trust issue. And two, you need to reevaluate your own priorities. If you're getting married and you're going to be more concerned about your stuff than your marriage, then maybe you don't need to get married.
No, the point is when something goes wrong, like I remember Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And so, right, that's what he said, and that's what it was. Like, I'm gonna hit Mike Tyson with the left. When he dropped the right, I'm gonna come with the uppercut, and then Mike Tyson hit you in the mouth, and you're like, oh my God, like that hurt really bad. I don't want to swing at him no more. It changes everything. What happens in marriage is you get married and everything is wonderful, and then you have a bad day and a bad week and a bad month, and now you're like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? And then your mistake could be compounded if you think you're about to lose your $1 million. And now, instead of worrying about how to fix and see divorce about this goes back to the whole premise of divorce is not an option. Divorce is not an option means that I'm going to find a solution. That's what
Exactly.
it means. Divorce is not an option. doesn't mean stay unhappily married. Like, I don't believe in divorce and I don't believe in staying unhappily married. What I mean is divorce is not an option. Therefore, I got to find how to be happy. I got to find that out. I got to find a solution to the problem instead of just staying unhappily married,
Right.
right? And so I want to eliminate the issue of a person saying, "Oh my God, did I make a mistake? Am I going to lose some money?"
Okay, but you still
That's what
should
I'm
be,
trying
your
to
first
eliminate. So it's
focus should be divorce is not an option, not the money.
right. Divorce is not an option, but I just deal with real people. And what I advise people on doing was if I don't feel comfortable with it, luckily I ain't have to have no prenup because I don't have no money. But I just see it's, you know, over 50% of marriages in a divorce. There's a higher divorce rate in Christians. And so if for people who come to me for relationship coaching, I got to be real about money. Money is different. Like I said, the most I ever agreed to was 5 years. No matter how I got a couple people that were getting married that were millionaires. He was a millionaire, she wasn't. I'm finding more and more women who are more financially established than men these days. For I guess we know why. More women graduate from college, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But the thing about it is that I need to eliminate that money issue from the lexicon, from the conversation. It is real that people get married and within that first 2 years think they made a mistake and just begin to another thing about marriage is, how much time we got left, because I can go
I
a
mean,
whole.
we don't have a whole lot of time, but I'm like, you talking about the 5 years. Like, I think about like Janet, and I'm like, I feel like she waited 5 years and one day and then got a divorce.
That's yeah, well, it's not they don't really work like that. The way they work is if you stay longer than 5 years, then the prenup is up. A 5 year prenup means that if we get divorced anytime within the first 5 years, then you get to keep all your money. But after the 5 years is when you get the money. So if you have to
Exactly.
get
She
divorced
waited
before the
5 years
five
and
years
one
is up.
day and she get that billionaire money.
Oh, okay. But she's not the only one he can file for divorce too, right?
Yeah.
It's not like she get to decide everything. Both people get to decide.
Yeah, but I
You
don't think
know,
I think the
um,
bottom line is she was saying he was verbally abusive and he's Muslim, so I seriously thought he believed in divorce. Um
mhm.
I don't know, nobody knows what happened inside of their marriage, but I mean it was like immediately after 5 years she got a divorce.
Well, he knew the 5 year term too. You know what I'm saying? It's not like only
He
she
could
knew
have
it.
waited
He
four
knew it
years
too.
and 11 months. I guess you got a point.
Yeah, he could have whenever he wanted to. You know what I'm saying? And so in that way, it doesn't hurt anything. And I'm just a realist that some people are just not good at it. Like I get some couples who just don't understand how to sacrifice. Men, for the most part, don't know how to sacrifice at all before they get married. When have we sacrificed? When? Like when have we said, okay, when have we compromised? When have we negotiate? We ain't done that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
ain't done it. Like
Just
I was
women throwing themselves
we,
at you, doing whatever you want.
right. And then women, when they get married, they sometimes they just come in like, okay, my husband is going to be different now. Like now he's gonna be chivalrous and be romantic and you know no, he the same dude. You know what I'm saying? And so the expectations of marriage change. Like a lot of women come into marriage like they had this dream about this
Yeah,
knight in shining armor that had all this money and all, and they really are living a dream and have no idea of the reality. They're just getting married and they're just lost. And so what I'm saying is I'm being realistic about what happens and what I actually see in marriage every single day. And that's all. When there's somebody come to me, I'm a Christian. I'm gonna be real, and I'm gonna give you advice based on what I've seen and learned and experienced from relationship coaching for like 12 years.
okay, that's real talk. So,
Hmm.
you have an example from your premarital coaching that you said you wanted to share.
Well, we only got a couple minutes left. We can save that, and I know you want to hit this Colin Kaepernick stuff. You
Oh
want to
my
do that for a minute or two?
gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now you got
Can you do
me.
that in a minute or two?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I will say my thoughts on this. It is really, really bothering me that this has turned into an argument over to kneel or not to kneel. It is really bothering me that this has turned into an argument over Colin Kaepernick. And it is especially bothering me that this has turned into an argument over the anthem and the flag. Um, because one, I don't feel that the action was disrespectful, but two, I feel like we should focus more on the why. Why is he kneeling versus how? Or why is he protesting versus how he protested? Um, and I feel like this is the very same argument that Martin Luther King was given. They didn't like the way that he was doing things, and they didn't like the rate in which he was trying to make change. But at the end of the day, they weren't concerned about the fact that change was necessary. So that's the thing that's really, really bothering me about this. And in having conversations with multiple people, one, I've been insulted on numerous occasions because the assumption is if you don't feel like this is disrespectful, you must not have anybody that you love that has served, or that you've never lost anybody who's served. And that is further from the truth. I have a lot of family members that have served and are serving. And the question is being posed as, do you feel that this is disrespectful to veterans? And the assumption there is white veterans. Has anybody had any conversations with black veterans and asked them how they feel about the whole Colin Kaepernick kneeling thing? And my family members are all on board. My friends who are veterans are all on board. So I think the question here is, what are we going to do to affect change? We now have national attention on this subject. How are we going to stop police from killing and brutalizing innocent people, or even not innocent people? Murder is not the, or capital punishment is not the, I don't know, for lack of a better word.
Job of the police.
Exactly.
It's just not the
police
job
are not the judge, jury, and executioner. So,
right.
So
They're to protect and serve. That's their job.
exactly,
That's it. Protect and serve.
exactly. So they need to find a way to be able to apprehend criminals, especially nonviolent criminals, without killing them.
And they do it. And they do it in Europe every day.
And so even beyond that, those that are not criminals, like Michael Bennett, who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and be black.
Right.
That should not happen.
What is it with the pulling up? And they pull out, and they had a gun on him the whole time.
Yes.
I just don't get why you got to have a gun out.
They had him on the
That's the
ground,
part.
handcuffed to the point where he said his hands were numb. He lost feeling in his hand, and a gun at his head.
So somebody twitch or move the wrong way, you shoot him in the head.
Exactly.
Like, I don't get why you got to have guns. Like, why did he not have his taser out or his billy club or something else? Why you got to have a gun out?
There was no threat to you when there's a man on the ground face down handcuffed. But at the end of the day, this stuff needs to stop happening, and the only way to make it not happen is to punish those who commit these crimes. They're crimes.
Yeah. All right. That's a good exit out, Tamara. I don't know how much we can get into it because I got fired up.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
But we love
please
America.
be sure to subscribe.
I gotta say one more thing. We love America
yes,
just
say that.
as much
Say
as
that.
everybody else. I keep hearing the words of Langston Hughes. I too am America.
I was born here. I ain't going nowhere.
Thank you.
Like y'all can get over that. Please be sure to subscribe and follow our podcast so you can be automatically alerted when we produce a new episode on iTunes, Spreaker.com, Google Play, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Tell a friend. Thanks for listening. Divorce is not an option podcast.
Bye.